dangerous mind is around the corner, waiting for darkness to set it free. A heart beats fire, a thread is burning. A light seems closer, the cuts they bleed. I believed in 1,000 shallow myths. I wanted 1,000 lives to pay. I felt the weight of 1,000,000 bricks. I felt desperate. Desperation wither and fade.
It was raw energy.
Rick was always really into whatever he did.
A lot of people just shook their heads and said, this guy's crazy.
Whatever he was doing, he really seemed to put his heart and soul into it.
Rick Barker was an artist and a musician, a poet. But he was also a friend of mine. To those of us that knew him, it was just something about the guy.
Oh, people hated the guy, right? He was just an asshole, man.
There was times whenever I didn't even like him.
He was a nasty type of fellow.
Everybody hated him.
I'm telling you this much right now, I'm looking each and every one in the fucking eyeballs. Suck my fucking dick. Do anything you fucking want to do. Just suck my motherfucking dick, man.
Oh, yeah. Love him like a brother.
Next to my father, he was probably the leading man in my life.
He was a good-hearted person.
Yeah, I loved Ricky. And
He always had people around him. People flocked to him, you know.
He's just a great person.
Ricky, I love you.
He had a really rough childhood, I think.
He was an artist.
You know, we were like lower middle class family. You know, we lived in a housing development.
Artist.
He never really had a male role model to follow.
Rick told me that his father went overseas. He was in the service and he just never came back.
You know, and that was a big thing for him. He always wanted to meet his father again.
Went overseas and he just never came back.
He always wanted to meet his father again.
Just never came back. Just never came back.
He just had so much anger from childhood days.
Never came
He
back.
was a little guy, you know, he was short. People pick on you and things, and you just get an attitude.
Rick always had a core of insecurity about himself.
He had so much anger from so many things that I really don't want to get into.
He was definitely driven and there was definitely demons. But
He had so much anger.
he was an artist. Rick could look and take any one of his paintings and point at, you know, what looked like a splotch of paint and tell you the story behind that.
For him, his music and his artwork was an outlet for a lot of anger that he had.
Nothing was random with him, you know, it meant something, and he knew what. Rick was a great artist. Rick was a genius, I think. That's my opinion anyway. I know the pride and the love and the care he had for his daughter, Ivy.
He was just so happy that he had a child. He just loved her more than I can't even explain it, because I know how he felt about her.
You could just see the fulfillment of his life right there, right beside him, you know.
Like any father and daughter, the love just grew stronger and stronger.
And unfortunately, he didn't really live long enough to have the influence on her that he would have liked to.
To me, it always seemed like Rick was searching for something in his life. But different things were pulling at him in different directions. In 1990, he acted in a student film. When he read the script, I think it just struck a chord for him in his personal life.
In his younger days, he had drug problems.
It's odd, but he was a very religious person.
You know, Rick used to fuck up a lot when he was younger. It was all through drugs.
Rick's religious thoughts were well formulated, and he was right with God in his own mind.
He had been in drug rehabs. You know, all this happened while he was even under 18. He had so much anger that he just had no way to vent that, and he did it through drugs.
He believed in something, but I don't know if it was
No, he didn't
one.
like to call it God. He had the idea that maybe we were all like a universal mind.
He was younger, you know. He was always really fucked up, you know, in his downs and shit. And eating 10 hits of acid and then taking a bunch of lewds and shit on top of that. And he always fucked up. His religion was sacred to himself. It eased him through life a little bit better, having that inside of him.
I think the drugs let him feel more, express himself more easily. I don't know what he would be like without him. He wouldn't have been Rick, I don't think.
He loved God more than anything, more than life itself. I know that.
I've asked him many times, you know, hey, you're drinking Mullis beer, you're doing blow, you know.
He wasn't a religious person as far as going to church, but he knew the Bible and he knew what he believed.
He did it in moderations, like it wasn't so abused or, you know, it's just refined to what he wanted, and
yeah, he believed in God.
It was something that gave him something to hope for.
What can you say, you know? Drugs are drugs.
It's a part of people like Rick.
He loved God.
That's just like the drugs. If you need something like that, then that's what you do to have contact.
Listen to my heartbeat.
the thing with Rick. See, he was a rock star in 8th grade, right? Or 9th grade. He didn't have a band. You know, he was already a rock star because, you know, he wore his hair. It was just his whole ambience, you know, his atmosphere that he carried with him.
Ricky wanted to be, he just wanted to be the music scene. He didn't think there was anything else.
Yeah, really, that was it.
Rick
It was Rick.
Shut the fuck up, man. I know you used to walk around. You get the more you spread, the bigger you get. The right is well, one more time, the bigger you get. The more you spread.
He completely lived and believed everything he was writing so strongly.
I think that's what got people fired up whenever they were around him, is because he was just so impassioned about everything that he did.
He was just striking out against boredom and just about the same old monotony thing that goes on in this town.
It seemed like sometimes he liked to piss people off, but in the long run, it made people enjoy it more.
Come on! Roll! Everyone! Who are you pussies? Same thing. Same dogs.
He actually vented his frustration out on the entire hypocrisy of the scene.
Well, there was beer cans flying and ashtrays, and Brian Held smacked himself in the head with a beer bottle and was bleeding all over the place, and Rick was grabbing his dick, and everybody loved it.
The violence was all part of the ritual.
He was just being the Dada artist.
He was out to put on a show, man.
It was an
And he
experience
did.
to see them play.
Whether you liked it or not, you knew that you saw Otis Vanilla and Sex Machine. You knew it.
This is the song where everybody can leave now. Shut the bar because, I mean, shit, man, fuck. You know? It's called Pigs in Zen. This is like, yeah. Go ahead. Fuck you too. You can pour beer on me anytime you want to. It's not really gonna matter that much. You can always make me feel like a lesser person, and you know what? I'm only gonna feel better. You know why? Because roses are red, you know that. Secret, now you tell me something else. Remember this is a tune. Leave a message, I'll call you back. Leave it back. Some people should die. You know why? Can I tell you?
Listen to my heartbeat.
You almost choked to death when you were a baby. I gave you a chunk of cheese off of my chicken Parmesan sub, and it had gotten hard after it got cold, you know, it got hard. And you were a little kid in the old chair there by the table, and me and Lisa were sitting there, and you started going, ugh, and you started turning purple. You know what I did? I performed the old child Heimlich maneuver on you. Held you down like this with your neck in my hand and went boom! Slapped you on the back and the chunk went right out on the floor. Luckily, I had first aid in my military career.
He was just so happy that he had a child.
At least part of him was at peace with the world.
Rick told me that his father went overseas. He was in the service and he just never came back.
He just wanted to believe in something so much.
In some ways he was, somewhat nihilistic.
Everything he had, he lashed out, doing everything that was wrong. Just rebel against. He had so much anger.
Rick was a great artist.
Raw energy.
He was angry at himself.
It's the newest French design, Ivy. Do you like it? It's the newest French design.
People like Rick are so unique and so rare. I mean, you have to treasure people like that.
Rick wanted attention or he didn't. He just couldn't sit in the crowd.
Rick definitely had a profound influence on pretty much everyone around him.
What else do we have? We have a vintage 1987 Chenin Blanc. Dog hairs and everything. You notice the dog hair attachment here at the top? Every bottle of wine should have at least 10 dog hairs on the mouth of it. Why? Etiquette. That's where.
He really liked stuff against society. Ridiculing it, cynical.
Definitely was into getting some kind of sexual point across. I mean, that was a big thing.
Never graduated from high school.
He always read. I mean, even in school, he was like a lot more intelligent than the other people.
He was angry at himself. We were definitely demons.
Just striking out against boredom.
Something to hope for.
Insecurity about himself.
Just never came back.
Very cocky.
Pissed people off.
Impassioned.
Angry at himself.
His death was forewarned.
He loved God.
He felt that he was immortal.
Existential angst.
He knew it was coming.
For drugs.
All of a sudden he's gone.
He's gone.
Rick seemed really happy. Then it was by accident.
He's gone.
Drugs killed him.
He loved God.
I think Ricky loved life too much.
He's gone.
The last time I saw Rick, it was a day after his birthday, and we were drinking together in an American Legion post. I remember he said to me, "I'm really glad we became friends. I really feel like I can talk to you." And as we sat there with a bunch of drunken war veterans, I remember his eyes were all misted up, and he told me about a dream he had recently had, where, as he put it, he saw himself walking to the edge of the abyss, and he said he knew if he was going to survive, that he would have to pull back from his lifestyle. But he had a really good outlook in the future, and he seemed really happy. But I didn't see him for a few days, and then one day I was driving past his apartment, and I saw an ambulance and people milling around. I pulled over and asked somebody what happened, and they said they had found a Richard Barker inside. I remember I wasn't even thinking of him. I just felt so angry, just because I didn't want to lose this person from my life.
But he and I had one night where we sat up and talked about religion and life and death and, you know, the typical existential angst, stay up till dawn type of thing. And I think everybody that knew him had at least one night like that with him and connected with him and, you know, felt connected with him for the rest of, you know, I still feel connected to him.
Yeah, I loved Ricky, and I don't see myself going to tears very often, but yeah, there was just something about him that really got to me.
I've never had anybody die, a friend or anything like that. It didn't seem possible, you know, it was just so unreal, and I sat there for a while. I guess I was numb. And then it hit me, and I went out. I felt like I was ripped apart.
He had a lot to offer, and it was a hell of a loss for all of us. We were tight, man. It wasn't an easy thing to deal with.
It's really hard to believe.
I loved him like a brother. I mean, if my brother would pass away, I'd probably feel the same as I did for Ricky.
He'll be remembered for his music, of course, and his eccentric artwork and his sense of humor. He'll be remembered for that, and just being a good friend to people. Because if he was your friend, then he was. There was no, I'll be your friend now, maybe not later. He didn't have too many friends, a lot of acquaintances, but if he was actually your friend and you were his friend, then, you know, there's nothing that anyone could do that could change that. I'll never ever forget things that he did or what he stood for, and because he was a good-hearted person. I miss him terribly.
This next video poem is for an old friend of mine, Richard Barker.